Amy Dickson, welcome to Beyond Stage Fright. You're a classical saxophonist and you perform throughout the world to great acclaim. In 2013, you won the Breakthrough Artist of the Year for the Classic Brit Awards, and in the same year, your album Dusk and Dawn got to #1 in the UK classical charts. You're a real exponent of the classical saxophone, and I wondered what it was that drew you to playing classical music on an instrument normally associated with jazz.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to speak to you. I started out music when I was 2 years old playing the piano. And then when I was 6, I was invited to play the saxophone in the school band in Sydney, where I grew up. And it just so happened that the most wonderful saxophone teacher lived down the road from us, which was a miracle in itself because we lived in the middle of nowhere with about 5 neighbours in our, within a 10-minute drive. It was a real miracle, and she was absolutely wonderful. And first of all, she was a woman, a young woman. She's less than 10 years older than I am, so she was a real goddess to me, and I was really, she's a wonderful person and a big influence on my life generally. But she also played saxophone both very well as a jazz musician, but also classically, and she too had the piano upbringing that I had, and so she had the same kind of classical background in that she knew all of the classical piano repertoire. And so it was always a very natural thing to play every genre of music. I was a pianist until I was 18, and that was actually my first instrument. And I played in big bands out of school and in school for my whole school career. I also, played a lot of classical piano repertoire. I played harpsichord in a Baroque orchestra on Saturdays at the Sydney Conservatorium. It was completely diverse, and so I kind of I was able to make a very informed decision when I did, that I knew that the saxophone was right for me as an instrument because I just love playing in front of people on the saxophone, whereas with the piano I felt very nervous, which applies to our interview. I just felt so horrendously nervous when I played the piano in front of people, whereas I love playing it for my own pleasure at home. And also just the classical repertoire just felt like my first language on the saxophone, and jazz always felt like slightly a foreign language to me. And so that's how I ended up doing what I do.
It's interesting, isn't it, how that first teacher always makes such a difference. It can really inspire so much.
Amazing. I actually made a recording last year, which is just about to come out, and it's a recording of 3 saxophone concertos by 3 of Australia's most wonderful composers, and it was recorded with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra in Sydney. And she came, and it was the first time I'd seen her in years and years and years. And she just came and sat in the booth while I was playing, and it was amazing. She doesn't really teach anymore, and still, after all these years, and I've gone on to study with so many other people. On the day of the recording, she said, "Can I just give you a couple of points?" And they were the most useful things that anybody could have said, just little things that just lifted it to the next level. She's just wonderful.
How have you managed all the pressures that come with being well known?
For me, it's been really, really gradual, and I'm very grateful for that. I've got a very I'm in my own personal life. It's very whole and fulfilled and happy and calm, and I'm very happily married and have a lovely family here in London, my husband's family, and my family are all in Sydney, but I've worked out my schedule so that I can go and visit them 3 or 4 times a year, and so I get to see them quite intensely, and that's lovely. I'm really lucky that I've got a wonderful team of managers and agents, and my record company are super, super supportive. The useful thing for me is to know that the rest of my life is very calm and in order, and I can just enjoy it. And I'm, as long as I'm well prepared for performing, then I can deal with anything that gets thrown my way that's slightly unusual, and just enjoy it. So, I really do value that firm kind of basis of friends, family, and support that I have.
Tell me about your preparation for a concert. How much time do you put in?
Lots. I practice just whenever I can, really, and some days that's not as much as I'd like, and other days it's 12 hours a day, and that's not straight through, obviously, but it's kind of dedicating all of, as much time as I can, and so I'll practice for an hour, and then I'll go and, spend a bit of time thinking about music, or reading about the composer, or doing something associated with the music. Of course, that's an ideal world, and obviously there are lots of emails and interviews and meetings and everything else that goes on, as any other person in any other field has.
And do you enjoy practicing?
I love it, and I love the mental stimulation, I love the music, I love the physical side of it, every single bit of it. I love learning new things. It's an amazing feeling to have a piece given to you, and then to learn it's like learning a new skill, like when you're a child. And I do play a lot of new music, because that's kind of the nature of a saxophonist. It's an amazing feeling when you play a piece through, and I generally play it through a few times, and then I take it for a walk or something, and I start to let it develop in my mind away from the instrument. And to come back to it the next day, and it's all there. It's kind of memorized already, and I get a real kick out of that.
Yeah. Do you really do 12 hours practicing a day?
It depends. This week I'm in London all week, and I have 4 weeks away from this weekend, and it's this week I am doing that much nearly every day, because I'm really preparing a lot of repertoire. I have a lot of new music that I haven't played before to get through in the next month. But then for the next month I'll be on planes a lot, and I won't get that opportunity. I do find that I need to play for 2 or 3 hours a day, just no matter what, because my lips need the stamina, and I think that's something that I don't know about other instruments, but I know that as a saxophonist you have to have very strong mouth muscles. The embouchure has to be really strong to be able to get the sound just right, and get the tuning right, and all the little tiny things. And if I don't have that, then most people won't be able to tell the difference, but I will. So for a performance to really go, for me to be really happy with that, I have to spend a lot of time just keeping my stamina up, really.
How do you manage practicing when you're on the road touring?
Well, I try to practice in wherever I can, and we always make sure that wherever I go, the promoter of the concert is providing a practice room for me, so that's so important, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I have, in the last couple of years, started doing a lot of yoga, and that's really, really helped with all the tension, it's helped my breathing, it's helped my playing, but also, any aches and pains that you get from traveling, and just, it's made me feel much more in control of my body, so that I don't feel like, I would need to see I don't need a massage or a doctor or whatever to fix me up. I can take control and being in control is a really good thing when you're performing. I was really lucky. I discovered this wonderful Indian teacher, Indian French lady, her name's Deepa, who lives quite close to us in London. And I just started studying with her, and it really felt like a saxophone lesson, actually. You know, she takes me through a class, and she teaches me various things, and then I practice each week, and then, you know, we're doing more the next week. And she's come to see me perform, and so she really knows the ins and outs of what I do. And it's very much tailored to my needs, and it's absolutely fantastic. And you know, it's something that I can do in a hotel room, and it's just brilliant. And the breathing aspect has been fantastic, because, you know, I thought I was quite good at breathing given what I do. It's kind of my job. But I've learned a lot about how breathing properly and different techniques of breathing can help to get to remove tension and to focus. And also the other thing that I've learned from doing yoga is, which has affected the way I play, is the meditative side of it. And I think learning to really concentrate on one thing and not to let the mind wander is very useful for a musician, because often if we're going to perform, it's easy to be distracted by things in the hall, or what am I doing, what, you know, who said what, who's thinking what am I wearing, what am I going to have for dinner, whatever. And whereas what we should be thinking about is, what did the composer want us to think, want us to play? What was he thinking? How can I bring across his intentions in the best way? And that's all we should be thinking of. And I find that the most useful thing for getting rid of any performance anxiety is to just simply to focus on the composer's intentions. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not focusing on what I should be, and I'm probably thinking about myself. And that's when I start to get nervous or whatever. I find that just thinking about the music instantly gets rid of any anxiety. It's very useful.
What is it about the meditation side of yoga that helps you find that focus in the performance?
I think it's just simply having lessons on focus. For somebody to spend the time and dedicate time to teaching your mind to focus on one thing, and then you can translate that into the music.
How do you prepare for a concert on the day? What's the hour before like?
I get to the concert hall very early, and I have a very, very strict routine. I like to be finished getting ready by 45 minutes to half an hour before I go on stage. And I do warming up first when I first get to the hall, and then funnily enough, I find the 10 minutes or so that I dedicate to doing makeup, or 15 or 20 minutes, you know, actually really useful. I know that sounds terribly, you know, whatever, shallow, but it's so useful to just shut my mind off everything else, and then come back to it. You know, have 20 minutes or so of just doing something completely separate, and then come back to the music afterwards, and then I'm a little bit more focused, a bit more fresh after I've done that. So I love doing my makeup before a concert, and you know, and that's kind of a creative, fun thing in itself. So you know, it's silly, but I find that useful.
Do you find that when you're getting ready and doing your makeup, that you're stepping into some kind of a performing role?
It's funny, because different days you'll have different amounts of energy. You might have been travelling, you might be tired, jet-lagged. You might have had rehearsals all day, you might have had interviews all day, or functions for sponsors and donors. And so when you get to the hall, sometimes it's easy to feel really, you know, you can feel quite tired. And I just find that doing the makeup and putting my dress on is this instant thing that snaps my mind into, right, it's time to go on stage and do my thing.
How do you manage all the functions, interviews, and everything that comes alongside giving concerts when you're touring?
Just try to get as much rest as I can. I can prepare myself mentally for all of that because I'm always very well organised. As I said, I've got a really great team of people who look after me, and they give me these schedules. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. It's and I know for weeks in advance, and so I can just work out, if I have an hour free, I might have a snooze, and getting as much sleep as possible, and so that you can kind of work the adrenaline in your favour.
And how do you work with the adrenaline in your favour?
Well, you have highs and lows. So if you have if you have a lunchtime performance and an evening performance, then having a snooze in the afternoon is quite a good thing to do. And also maybe, if there are a lot of interviews or something in the morning, then just not allowing myself to get worked up for them because I know I have to conserve my energy for the evening. There's also this really strange phenomenon that I know a lot of musicians experience where you can feel really tired all day. And sometimes on the day of a concert, even if I haven't been travelling at all, I'll wake up and I'll feel so useless, I'll put the kettle back in the fridge after I've made a cup of coffee in the morning instead of the milk, that kind of stupid. And then somehow it just, in the evening, it just kicks into gear. And I think there's something in the subconscious that just kind of self-preservation or something that, that helps us out. I know now that I'm just got to think, okay, I'm being useless because I've got a concert tonight, that's fine.
What for you are the major stresses of professional life that you have to manage more than any other?
I think jet lag and illness. Jet lag is going to happen all the time. Illness, you try and put it off and you try and just do everything possible because it's a nightmare to play a wind instrument if you have a cold. And, I just take lots of vitamins. If I see that there's somebody in the room who's not very well, I leave the room. It can be quite rude. But, you have to because you just can't be ill. So that's probably the biggest challenge, I think.
Is there something about your performing life that you love so much that it diffuses any performance stress?
Yes, I think the big answer to that is the sound. There's just something for me about the sound of the saxophone and the warmth that you can produce on the instrument that I love more than anything else. It's the most important thing for me. And if I can create that, if I can really feel like I've achieved the sound that I want to get, then that's a huge joy. That and just making music sing. And also working with other musicians. These days I get to work with some really amazing people, and it's so exciting to play with someone else, especially in chamber music, and to bounce musical ideas off one another.
What is it about new music that excites you so much?
Well, the music itself is, I think because of the upbringing that I had, it was so diverse, and I kind of covered most genres of music. Contemporary music doesn't feel like anything different to me. It's not and because of the instrument that I play, it really most of our repertoire comes from relatively not so long ago. so I just think of it as music. I don't think of it as contemporary music. But the act of commissioning a piece and actually working with the composer is a great joy and an enormous honour, and it's just amazing. It's so inspiring to work with somebody who's really, really passionate and has. Quite often, I'm probably the only person who's going to be privy to their inner thoughts of. I'll go to their house and have a coffee and take my saxophone along, and they'll show me a little bit of score and say, "Oh, I was thinking about this world event that happened while I was writing this," or X, Y, Z. There are millions of different things that just come from nowhere, and you just think, "Oh my gosh, that's so exciting!" And to be the person who hears all of that, it's such an honour. And obviously, I'm giving them a bit of advice about how to write specifically with the saxophone as well. So I'm having a bit of an input on that piece, and so that's very exciting too.
What pieces have you most recently commissioned, and what do you really enjoy about them?
The big project that I've been working on recently is this album of 3 saxophone concertos, one by Peter Sculthorpe, one by Ross Edwards, and one by Brett Dean. And I mean, those 3 are like, some of my hugest musical idols, and it was a great joy to be able to work with all 3. And I could talk for hours about each one of them and all the little tiny bits of information that that we chatted about during that process.
What does going on stage feel like for you?
I try not to let it feel too different. I try to be myself. I try not to have a separate on-stage persona at all. I personally think that if I were to put on a stage face, the audience would know instantly and would never trust me again. That's not me. So I just try to be myself and just think about the music. And I enjoy it more. I enjoy the interaction with the other musicians more when I'm in that frame of mind, because I can it's just like we're playing in our living room and making music together, and there happens to be an audience, and I enjoy the interaction with the audience as well. I often speak to the audience in between pieces if it's chamber music concert, but I just try to again focus on the music rather than ta-da, here I am.
And what does it feel like when it's going really well on stage?
That's really exciting when everything's come together. One of the great joys of being on stage musically, as opposed to practising in my studio at home, is the interaction with other people, because when I'm by myself at home, I'm by myself. And when you have really musical, talented people on the stage next to you, and they start, nothing's ever the same in performance as it is when you're rehearsing, and that's the beauty of it. And so that's really exciting to see what happens. And that's probably the best bit about the whole thing, actually.
Amy Dickson, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Pleasure.